Hi, my name is BJ Goff, and I'm a Prader-Willi specialist with about 35 years of experience in the field of Prader-Willi syndrome.
And I'm Elizabeth Roof. I'm at Vanderbilt University, and I have about 30 years of experience with people with Prader-Willi syndrome. And we're here to talk about why you want to tell your kid about having PWS.
So here are some reasons. First, if you don't tell them, someone else might. And what they say might not be accurate or appropriate and might even be grossly insensitive. You want to be the one in control of that first conversation. You want your child to come to you with their questions and worries. Another reason is keeping it a secret assumes it's bad or shameful. You want to normalize having Prader-Willi syndrome, treat it as what it is, a fact of their lives. Your child isn't bad, although they are often labeled as such. Your child does have many challenges to face, and being ashamed of who they are shouldn't be one of them.
Yep.
Another reason is most kids know they're different and will be relieved to learn why. Many of your children knew they were different from other kids long before being told about their diagnosis. It is likely a relief to find out that there is a good reason for why they felt that way, so that they don't blame themselves for the challenges that Prader-Willi can bring. Self-advocacy skills are a must. The sooner your child learns about their strengths and needs, the more time they have to build on that. And who better than one's parents to launch their child on a journey to becoming self-advocates. Another reason is to enable them to become part of a peer support group. It's essential. There is no substitute for finding yourself among understanding friends. Sadly, many people with Prader-Willi syndrome and their families live a lifetime with little to no interaction with others like themselves. We hear about the need for friends and a social life all the time. Technology has provided these individuals and their families a means to connect with others who get it. It doesn't take the place of face-to-face meetings, but it is a vehicle for building understanding and meaningful relationships. This couldn't happen if your children didn't know who they were and that there were others like them in the world. Not knowing the diagnosis doesn't change the diagnosis. It doesn't make their condition any better or worse. Knowing does prepare them for dealing with it. They're going to have Prader-Willi syndrome and anxiety and struggles with food, whether or not you tell them. So why not arm them with the information and strategies they'll need for managing their everyday challenges? Education and behavior support plans must incorporate Prader-Willi syndrome. There's a learning profile for students, Prader-Willi as well as a behavioral profile. In order for the school to provide instruction tailored to your child's abilities, that learning profile should be considered. Just as important, the development of effective behavior support strategies absolutely must take into account Prader-Willi characteristics and related behaviors. If we fail to make known a diagnosis of Prader-Willi syndrome to teachers and clinicians, we are setting up the child for failure because they may treat them as choosing to act this way or letting them off the hook for bad behavior. Prader-Willi syndrome is a family affair, as most of you know all too well. You, your spouse or partner, your other children, your parents, your in-laws, and extended family are all significant players in your child's life. They can make your life and your child's better or worse depending on their understanding of Prader-Willi syndrome. Finally, in telling your child and their teachers about their diagnosis, be careful not to use their diagnosis as an excuse rather than an explanation. Saying they can't help it, often following some discussion of unacceptable behavior, will backfire with educators. It sounds like an excuse, even though you don't mean it that way. And definitely don't let your child hear, let alone repeat, the I can't help it argument. We know they will find some creative ways to use that line. It's important that your child know that PWS can be hard, but there is support for your child and you.
So the time to talk about to your children is when they begin to notice differences, right? So asking questions about themselves and their behavior. It may not be when the child starts to lose their temper at school because they can't express themselves in a way that they can understand, or take someone's lunch or comes home upset because they're being bullied. At some point, they're going to require special education services. So they go through numerous tests, gets pulled out of class for speech, occupational therapy, physical therapy. They will want to know why. Why them and not other kids? So around 10 to 12 age, we often say there is a growing gap between academics and social stuff, between children with PWS and their peers. This can be a really difficult time for the child and their family. While PWS is a lifelong condition, knowing that there are ways to cope can help strengthen your child and make their experience one they can understand. When children are really young, they begin to notice differences. A child will see someone in a wheelchair and ask, "What's wrong with that girl?" Or a child will come home from school and tell mom and dad that Charlie was bad at school. He had another tantrum today. Generally, kids at this age are pretty tolerant and accepting, so your son or daughter may not have too many questions about their own differences, particularly because they may not be visible. Today, with the widespread use of growth hormone, children with PWS are able to keep up physically and maintain a healthy weight. Often around the 3rd or 4th grade, 8 or 9 years, these differences are easier to see. They might struggle with academics and social interaction. They may start to avoid schoolwork because it just feels too hard. If people don't know why, they may blame the child and punish them even though it's not their intent not to finish the work. Your child may come home upset, not wanting to go to school once they loved it, and they may complain about their classmates. They may start to blame themselves and think they're stupid. Classmates may start avoiding them or excluding them because of behaviors and immaturity. Your child may be feeling it, but they have no idea what's going on. Not speaking out about PWS means your child may internalize the struggle without understanding why it is even happening. So what do we say? Where did we begin? How far do we go? Maybe telling your child that their diagnosis is less important than discussing the specific issues that are presenting at this moment and how they can be helped. A tutor, a social skills group, a mentor through Best Buddies or big brothers and sisters can all be helpful. They can be ways to build confidence in your child. The school can play a major role in supporting your child, but only if they have a thorough understanding of PWS. We've heard that some families are being advised not to talk to their child about their disability or to let others know in the school about their disability or their diagnosis. This is a really poor and uninformed advice. We can certainly do how the brain works differently talk, and it may take you longer to finish your classwork. When the teacher wants to do a new lesson, if you're not finished with what you were doing, you may get upset. You want everything to be perfect, so you erase a lot. When the work seems too hard or too difficult, you might get frustrated, and it's hard for you to say that you need help. And then to listen carefully when you're offered help because you just want to be finished. Critically important information for both your child and their teachers so they can work together with understanding. You should say these things, and the sooner the better, so you, your child, and the teacher can work together on how best to present material to your child with PWS. By giving help around the symptoms without understanding the cause can lead a lot of to interventions that really don't focus on the right behaviors, right? So this idea that we may not change because they have PWS. For example, if they focus on self-control around food in the classroom without making environmental changes that lessen food access, they're setting the child up for failure. Focusing on concrete strategies and coping is more helpful than just focusing on the diagnosis. Giving them ways to name and tame can be helpful in coping with behavior they wish they didn't have. In terms of hunger related to PWS, you might want to explain that their brain forgets to tell their stomach that you've had enough to eat. But I, mom or dad, will always make sure that you have just the right amount of food to keep your body healthy and strong. You might want to institute some rules like, you can never take someone else's food, even if they offer it to you. You can't go to grandma's kitchen without me when we visit. With older children and pre-adolescents, some parents label the experience as the Prader-Willi trying to take over. It simplifies things and gives the person a chance to fight back. But in order to use that terminology, it must be explained at the person's level of understanding. Each person with PWS is different, so you must find your own way to explain the challenges. Some teens with PWS are quite capable of doing their own research on their diagnosis once they've learned the language. And as parents, you want to be ahead of the curve. So be ready for some tough questions, particularly about relationships, marriage, having children, jobs, and living independently. There can be no putting it all, no mincing of words, or half-truths. The conversations that start in the preteen years and continue into the teen and adult years when kids become actually really aware of their differences is important. The academic and social gap continues to widen. Classmates and friends may become less tolerant of behaviors that are associated with PWS, like rigidity, immaturity, and perhaps lying, stealing, and behavior outbursts. It's a crucial time when your child needs to understand their struggles and develop and utilize coping strategies at home and at school.
You know your children. You know their quirks, their social struggles, their strengths, their dreams, and the obstacles they face. And that's what you would talk about with your kids, not the characteristics that don't apply. We feel that to move toward acceptance and normalcy, we have to make Prader-Willi syndrome a part of everyday life. You must be proactive. It's the only way to provide your child with the skills and strategies they'll need throughout their lifetime.